PKN episode 138.
It's like a little test before of like strength. I've had girlfriends. I've been like, try to drag me. Like no, pretend like right now as I lay in this bed that I've been knocked unconscious or I've succumbed to the fumes or the smoke or whatever has happened, and you've got to get me out of here in the next 10 minutes or I fucking die. Go. She cannot move me an inch, not an inch, with all her might. On what she just picks up my foot and she's like, even your leg is heavy. Just
Dude,
your
you're
leg
totally right.
is heavy.
It's shocking because like, and when you're
I can grab her by one
like,
and like a caveman, turn around and walk in the opposite direction, like dragging her.
Yeah, you could do it easily, and you would get her out of that flaming house. You'd get her
Sure.
safely on the side of the road. It's almost disturbing because, like Woody has said so many times, people are surprised. Like you've even told Hope, which is a wonderful thing to tell your daughter. Like, don't ever think like I can take that guy, because you can't. Like I thought for the longest time, like when you're with a girl or whatever and you're joking around, you just go limp on top of her like you would a child almost, and you just go fully limp just like that.
Sure.
And you just are like, move me. And for a while, I was always like, oh, these girls are just joking around. They could move me off if they wanted to. But then eventually you're like, they'll be like, I can't. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you trying or are you that weak? And it's like, oh my God, like you really are. If this place caught on fire right now, or if someone ever snuck in when we were fucking and hit me with a hammer on the back of the head and I fell on top of you, all you could do is scream and watch him steal my electronics as he left. Because you
You'd be like, 2 for 1.
Yeah, and then you watch those like female firefighter videos and you're like, I want to be one of those people who's just like, whatever, man, if you can do it, you can do it, but you fucking can't. Like,
yeah, and it's
you're not able to.
And it's different kinds of strength too, because I dated a girl who was Filipino, but I think if it's a girl, she's Filipina. In any case, she's from the Filipino, and she was short in stature, but her lower body was very powerful. And I could totally like hop on her back, piggyback style, in like a parking lot, and she'd fucking truck me all the way to the car. And like it wouldn't be like this sort of like labored, every step is the world kind of like Atlas, and
So
I'm
she
just
Like the
specializes
strongman
in
competition when they're doing the farmer's carry. And
it was just like, yeah, hop on, and then she'd just run to the car. But I don't know that she could drag me out of a bed either, because of just the grabbing and pulling strength maybe needed. I just don't think it could happen.
you know how
no,
my
walk into
parents
that
were
burning
oddly
bedroom.
open with their sex life?
Yeah.
So take that, store it away. They were telling me of a simulated rape they did, and they were surprised by how easily my father could, if he wanted to, rape my mother. She had this notion in her head, like, oh, I could stop it. You just keep your knees together or whatever. And he just, whatever, like, pried in there with his own legs, split
broke
them
her
open.
guard.
Yeah, split her open. And she was like, oh, okay, noted. I am defenseless against a man if he wanted to do that.
Have you ever done the thing where just kind of for fun, you take, like with a girlfriend or whatever, you take both of their hands at the wrists and you put them together, and then you just grab like this, put one wrist here, and you just lock. And then they're just like, stop. And it's like, no, come on, you can get out of this. And you almost start rooting them on like you would a kid. Like, come on, don't let life beat you down. You got it. You get out of this one hand grip. And then
I don't think I could do that to Jackie.
I bet you could.
You could.
But look, my girlfriend was
Jackie's
telling Taylor
5'7".
last time when we were in Colorado that I submitted her with my toe, because I can do that thing with like my big toe where I pitch
can do
really
that,
hard.
yeah.
And like I got her in such a way that like her arm was pinned and she couldn't get her other arm from beneath her body, and I was like, I got you, and it's just my toe, just my foot, and I'm holding her down. She's like, I'm pinned. I tapped.
In her defense, if you and I were fighting and I felt your fucking toes pinching the back of my arm, I would probably tap and be like, the fuck are you doing, you maniac, with your fucking monkey toes?
See, before Taylor said that, I was going to say part of it is attitude. Like, and I say, so I was on a swim team, right? And all the guys like lived and breathed swimming, competitive swimming, you know, looking for an edge, killing themselves every practice, etc. Like 80% of the girls, it was partly social for them. They were just kind of on a swim team, you know, they raced and stuff, but whatevs. There were only 20% who had like a guy's attitude towards like, this is my sense of self-worth wrapped up in my achievements here.
And they probably dominated.
They did, yeah. Those were the All-Americans, yeah. And so, like, I think back to, like, getting submitted with toes. I think there might be this like. I think most guys would be like, yeah, that's not a hold that works. You know, fucking like break it or something. Like, I don't think Kyle could submit me with his toes, just because.
Of course not.
Yeah, just because I wouldn't
Saying it would
quit
be
there.
gross.
Flail a little.
I don't
Like,
think Kyle could
yeah.
submit his girlfriend with his toes. I think she quits too easily.
Maybe.
That could be, but it's also the thing of like, if Brock Lesnar and I were fighting and he has the same kind of toe dexterity that Kyle does, if he caught me with a little one there, I would still tap because I'd be like, this fucker's giving me a real pinchy bruise from his toes, and he's
no
way
way.
bigger and stronger. I'm not going to even go any further.
Yeah.
Enough is
Brock Lesnar is pedidextrous as I am.
pedidextrous.
And I invented that. Yeah,
It works.
That's really
Yeah, I
great.
like it.
Yeah, pedidextrous.
I like that.
And let's say he has a hangnail on his big toe, he could kill you.
That's a pedophile joke. Yeah.
Kill you right there.
'Cause the thing
He wraps
about
it
Brock-
around, just cuts
If
the
Brock
vein.
has me in a, we'll call it a toe hold, even though that's already a thing. But if Brock has me in
Reverse toe.
if Brock has me in a new wave toe hold, I have to make a decision whether I really want him to go to his second move. You know, I might just be like, fuck it, I tap. You know,
You got me.
Yeah, you got me. Because if you don't have
And
me,
everybody
you're just
sees, like
going
the
to.
box score and sees that you were submitted to a toe hold. They're like, yeah, oh, you got to tap to that. You got to tap. You got your knee blowing out.
Right.
After that comes the nose remover, and so obviously you tap out in the
Yeah. Dude, Kyle,
Like,
you're a UFC
who too?
fan. Has 2017 sucked?
Yeah, it's been super boring.
I mean,
especially with,
it's April now.
especially with the Habib fight falling apart, and then like the aftermath of that, and seeing that there's this limbo with Conor out there, and then GSP coming back, but he's gonna fight fucking Bisping, and we know that he really just everybody just wants to fight Conor, everybody, and
For
that
me,
is
representing
stocking
the people who
whole
don't
industry.
know anything about this, so there haven't been any great fights so far
Yeah,
this year.
so
You guys were all excited about Mayweather and McGregor a while back. Like, what all
Still
this
are,
hype?
if it ever happens, but you know, it's a work in art. You know, I mean, it's a
Work in
it's a work in
progress.
progress. You know, there's nothing developing. It could be next year. It could never happen. But what's
Mayweather's
happening?
known. I'm sorry. Mayweather's known for dragging out fights. Pacquiao was like the big money fight, and eventually happened. Dude, that thing. I don't want to exaggerate, but I think it was like 5 or 8 years in the making. 8, he says. Yeah. That's
Was that the only time they fought, or had they fought
Yes.
before?
Oh,
They
because
just
he was
fought
terrified
once.
of it. He wait till Pacquiao got old. That's what he did. But this isn't going to work this time because Conor McGregor's like 28 years old or whatever, and Mayweather's the one who's.
Oh
like,
man, that he waited 8 years to fight
Yeah.
Pacquiao, basically being like, oh yeah, I can take him. How old is he? He's 27. Okay, I'll take him in 8 years. Yeah, I'll take him. Like that seems like. Does everybody in the fighting community look at that with derision? Like,
Yeah.
we know what you did. You waited until you thought you knew you could dominate.
they're
Everybody
disappointed.
sees him as dodging that, just like everybody thinks that Tyson back in the day was ducking Holyfield when he came back, or Foreman. Whenever Foreman came
Oh,
back
really?
at like 43 years old and at like 300 pounds, and everybody's like, oh, and the walking joke George Foreman comes in. Why don't you make us up? Oh my God, he killed him. Oh, well, I guess Foreman's back now. Like they were about to start making fun of this guy and tell him to make their hamburgers for him, and then he came in there, started knocking young guys out again, and Tyson didn't want that fight.
I didn't even know Foreman fought again after the grill.
Yes, he fought. He's come back 3 times. Like there
Has
was
he?
like just a couple years ago, and Foreman's like 50s, 60s. I saw him doing ads for Invent Tech on Hulu recently, but he was like, "I've had another revelation. The Lord Jesus Christ has talked to me again. Wants me to be the world champ again." He's like 50 or something, and he's out there chopping trees again. Like I'm like, all right, I'm not buying in this time, George. It's not
Yeah.
1993. Like,
I
but back to MMA, what I feel like has happened is all of MMA is stymied a bit by the chase of the money that comes along with a Conor McGregor fight. All of a sudden, it's like they're like, holy shit! If you fight Conor McGregor, then you get paid, and not 8, 10, 15 times what we normally get paid. It's a huge raise to go fight this guy, and now you're on the next level. Now maybe you're the guy that other people want to fight so they can get to the next level. It's a big deal. So you got Nate Diaz. What's he doing right now? He wants to fight Conor McGregor again. He wants the trilogy to be completed. You got GSP coming back out of nowhere, and he's like, I'll fight Michael Bisping for the title. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, even though there's plenty of guys waiting in line. He wants Conor McGregor too. That's what he wants. That's the big money fight. That's what everybody in the sport wants. You even got what Cody Garbrandt, you know, who's like a weight class below. He's like, I'm gonna be the fucking 3-belt champ. He's my favorite fighter right now, by the way. Him and Yair Rodriguez. I like Cody Garbrandt and Yair. They're both really flashy.
Great choices.
And
Yeah.
real fun to watch.
I like Conor a lot. You know, it's almost uncool to say you're a Conor McGregor fan because
I am too, of course.
Yeah,
but
because
he's not fighting
Conor
right.
McGregor fan.
because like there's a lot of new fans who like Conor. But I started UFC 1. Like that's when I started watching it. So I feel like I can like anyone I want. But Khabib and Ferguson was a really exciting fight that fell through. And Ferguson did something I don't like. He said, you know, like they tried to get him replacement fighters, and he's like, "Fuck it, nope. I was prepared for Khabib. I won't fight a different person."
Less money, and no title.
You know, he made even less money by not fighting at all.
They didn't give him his show money either.
They didn't give him all his show money, and the
Give
way
him a fraction of his show money.
yeah. So here's for people that don't know. Here's how it works. If you make weight, you typically get paid your show money. And that's usually half of it. And if you win, you get the other half. So a contract might be like $100,000 a show for a big guy like this, $100,000 a show and $100,000 a win. And his contract had like a special, this was like a one-off sort of deal. Like, oh, this is a super fight that people are really excited about. So you're going to get like $200,000 a show and I don't know, $200,000 a win. I'm making up numbers, but the concept is right. And, when his opponent didn't go, he didn't get the super show money, but his contract said that. Like it wasn't like Dana just changed the rules afterwards. And they talked to him, and they're like, "Look, like when they said, look, Khabib is out. This is the impact. Your show money is going to be this, like your normal show money, not your super show money. And you can fight this other guy, and you can do all this other stuff." And he just said no. And then he went on Twitter afterwards and was like, "I didn't get all my show money." Dude, you got what the contract said you'd get. That's how this works.
But offering him Michael Johnson, no like interim title, and why would he take that? You can't. Khabib just took Michael Johnson apart a few months before. If you lose to Michael Johnson, then holy fucking shit! Like maybe you didn't have what it took to get in there with Khabib anyway, because Khabib took Michael Johnson apart. If you beat him, then that's kind of a foregone conclusion. You're supposed to beat him. You know, and it's less money. It's not what he was there for.
Conor would do it. Yeah, Conor would. He would just say, he's just a man, and he'd go back to sleep. He does it all the time. Like he was supposed to fight Jose Aldo, and he took Chad Mendez. He was supposed to fight Junior Dos Anjos, and he took Nick Diaz. And I'm sorry,
why
Nate
do they allow
Diaz.
this in UFC? Like when you say something like he was supposed to fight, you know, Stevie Fast Hands, and then he ended up fighting, you know, Frankie Shamrock or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that mean that dude who was getting in the fight decided, nah, I'm gonna go with this guy?
Like different reasons.
It's usually
because
an
that
injury.
seems really. Oh, okay, but so they're not just saying actually no.
They're falling out.
Well,
or they're not making weight.
My only point is you can
injury sometimes. Sometimes they'll manufacture an injury, or they'll break a hand. They'll get a bad cut in sparring, and you can't go in like that. They'll have some sort of kidney failure from the weight cut. They won't make their weight. Sometimes they're so far away from making their weight, they know that by making it, they'll be in shit shape and they won't be able to fight the fight. But it's never like, nah, change my mind.
But
okay.
So when a fighter can't make a fight, sometimes there's a want-to wrapped up in that, right? Like Jose Aldo, he was a brilliant 145-pound champion for a long time, pulled out of like half of his fights. And the thing is, if he had an injury that another guy might have fought with, he would be like, nope, I fight 100%, fuck off. And he got knocked for, he pulled out of like 5 title fights or something like that, which is why he was like a 10-year champ. He only fought when he was the best version of him. Conor, on the other hand, like Kyle and I went and saw him fight in Boston. The guy had a torn ACL in that fight. And when he fought against whoever Cole Miller replaced, I don't recall. I think it was Seaver, I forget. But anyway, when he fought, he couldn't move his thumb. And he's like, you don't need a thumb to fight. I'm fine, right? And they're like, you don't need a thumb to fight. And like Conor goes in there and fights injured.
Wrestling?
Yeah, like you know, like I think
choke him.
When Dos Anjos pulled out with either a broken rib or a sore rib, people disagree. I think it might have been a foot, whatever it was. Aldo pulled out with the rib, Anjos with the foot, and Conor's like, I was more injured than both of those people for those fights, and I went and took a replacement. And
Sure.
so, like,
you've got a good point there. But I think that this is somewhat different because they're both chasing after Connor, who's fucking making it real hard to catch him. You know, he doesn't want to get caught. You know, and they're like, I've gotten to here, and Dana doesn't want me to fight Connor. Connor doesn't want me to fight Connor. If I fucking lose, then I go all the way back down here. And the UFC is not a fair game. There's no guarantee that once I get back up here, that I'll even get the fucking fight. And if I do get back up here, Connor might be gone. He might be a goddamn professional boxer now, you know, like, or a movie star, or retired, or in the WWE. You know, I want him now. I can't take this chance of going to fight Michael Johnson, who got his ass embarrassed last time he was out against the guy I'm supposed to be here fighting and proving myself against. I can't take that chance. And I'm certainly not going to take it for less money and with less on the line. Sure, if you say this is for the interim title, and if Michael Johnson beats me, he gets the interim and then he faces Connor, then yeah, you do that. But you can't have your cake and eat it too, UFC. You can't get your money today out of me, and if I lose, throw me away like yesterday's trash. Like, it's one or the other. Like you can't have your cake and eat it too. I like what he did. That's what I'd have done too. I'm there to fight this one guy, and then I get my life's aspiration, which is to fight the biggest guy on the biggest stage for the biggest amount of money, which is what a Connor.
I don't like what he did. I understand it, but I feel like if you are the man, right, and they offer you like the 11th best ranked fighter, then you're like, what? Yeah, fuck, I'll take it. Give me an easy
He's
one.
not 11th. He was 7th.
Michael Johnson?
Like,
okay, 7th, right? If you think you're the champion and the 7th best guy comes along on short notice, you're like, yeah, it's probably like 3 minutes for a guy like me.
But we know MMA, right? Like, this isn't like collegiate wrestling, where if you're number 1 and he's number 7, whoo, you're about to get thrown. This isn't professional boxing, where you're number 1 and number 7. You're not going to talk right anymore after this. Like it's MMA, and those it's just such little things.
Anything could happen
in the whole fucking fight. One blow, one strike, one feint.
But that's the point of like that's why arguably it's more impressive to be a champion in the UFC than that boxing. I don't know shit about boxing. I have no idea. I'm
now.
just okay. Less impressive. But I'm saying like what I don't like about. Correct me if I'm wrong about the UFC, but like part of the reason I can't get into it as much, other than I'm just like into team sports more, is like for hockey, NBA, NFL, every year there's a fucking schedule. It's like, all right, on the 5th we play the Patriots, on the 12th we play the Jaguars, like whatever. And it's like, it's not like you can be like, you know what? Actually, we're not going to play the Colts this week. Brady's not feeling hot. We're not the best version of ourselves. And like, it holds you to a structure. Like, if you lose 6 games in a row, sucks to suck, but you have to play that 7th game. With UFC and these single fighter sports, it seems almost like the guy fighting and his team has control of like, all right, we're going to have this fight, and then we're going to have this, and then we're going to have that fight. Oh, no, he's doing real good now. We're not going to schedule that one. And it's almost like you're just kind of stacking the deck of scheduling in your own favor, and then whoever emerges as the most quote-unquote popular in the fan of field, the fans, then they are suddenly the quote like best fighter, and they're the one to ramp up. It doesn't seem like the NHL. Like, the NHL couldn't be like if the Blues had the biggest fan base of all time, they couldn't just be like, oh, now the Blues they play the fucking Colorado Avalanche 30 times in a row, and then they round out the season with 50 games in New Jersey. And it's like, what? That's ridiculous. Well, they want to see the Blues in the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry. Like, that's what they got to do. Like, that's it. I get that feeling from the UFC, and I'm sure I'm wrong. But is there at least some truth to that? That it's like you're stacking the deck. It's not really a lot of parity. It depends how good your team is.
They're absolutely stacking the deck, and they're putting on. They're trying to make certain guys rise to the top, or certain girls rise to the top. They always are. Look at it was just a few Fox events ago when they had Paige Van Zandt and that
karate hottie Michelle Watterson
versus Watterson. Like it's not her name I'm trying to come up with. It's the guy, the really good looking Heath Northcutt or Heath Northcliffe or Sage Northcutt. Okay. Like he and Paige Van Zandt are both very, very attractive. They look like supermodels or something, you know, or like swimsuit models or whatever. And neither one of them have the skills it takes to be on the stage that they were on. They shouldn't have been where they were, certainly not in the same night. It was such a shitty night of fights. Both of them lost. And it was great to watch Michelle Waterman take her apart because she's like a true fucking martial artist. She fucking picked her apart, beat the shit out of her.
She's also good looking.
Very good looking,
Mm-hmm.
and actually talented. So I thought there you had the UFC being like, this is going to sell more tickets. This is going to get more people watching just because we've got two really good-looking people fight. Just when they had CM Punk, the wrestler, come in for his first UFC fight, and that guy beat the dog shit out of him.
Mickey.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Gale?
his name's Mickey. I'm not sure about the Gale part, but it's great. His walk-in song is that, "Hey Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind, hey Mickey," and yeah, the whole place lights up. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's entertainment, so I understand if you're gonna have. I got no problem if they did a freak fight, every event. If they had like some retired football player versus some like sumo wrestler, and like, yeah, let's have them go at it in the cage. But I also like the pure side of the sport where we get to see martial artists compete against
I like
each
a
other.
balance. I think the UFC does it pretty
Yeah.
well. One of the problems lately, though, is that a lot of the people who are right near the top is a bit of a logjam. They can't get the fights they want, and the people they want to fight. It seems like as soon as people get a belt, they back off to like one fight a year. They're always injured. They're always unavailable. They want to hold that belt forever.
They do a lot of sports casting. They do a lot of this right here, John.
Yeah.
They immediately want to like put that belt on a table, sit behind it, and watch someone else get their asses kicked while they get paid, which is, having your cake and eating it too. I'm the champion, and I'm going to be here telling you about that guy getting beaten up tonight. Not doing any beating myself. Like they all do that. Like if you watch the UFC coverage show, whatever that thing's called, there's only one lady on there. That lady, she's black, I think. She's the only one I know who isn't
Misha
a fighter.
Tate is on it sometimes.
Yeah, Misha Tate's on there, and obviously, ex-fighter. She, if you can call her retired at 30 or whatever she is.
She's not a fighter anymore.
She retired.
She had a couple of bad outings in a row
She
there.
had two bad outings. She was a champ, and then she lost. And
She's at that level of like baseball in 1886 where there was a guy who was like pretty good, and this is Whitey Wallace Johnson, the first man to bunt. And it's like, oh, wow, this guy's claim to fame is that he figured out, you don't have to swing. Cheerio, chaps, you don't have to swing the bat as hard as you want. You can just tap it over. And he just tapped it like that. And then people
No one
remember
is
him.
fast enough to get over here.
And he's British for some reason. But he's
Because he's a cricket player who
the point
came
is-
over and
is that
revolutionized the sport.
She is so lucky
You're
to be
thinking
where
of
she
Ronda
is now.
Rousey, I think.
She is. No, Misha Tate.
Okay.
Because Ronda Rousey was more impactful. I would have given her as like the first person to hit an insignificant amount of home runs in a season until they realized, like, wow, now that we got this swinging thing down, this sports science, we can really figure it out. People aren't going like this, like a maniac up in the air, and then like coming down with the wrong angles.
They
Like,
used to do that.
yeah, they did. Like, and then they figured out sports science. Like, watch a goalie in hockey in 1974. He's like standing there. Some of them not fully on the mask train yet, and then a slap shot goes by, and if it's low, some of them just kind of like just move their lower body over there, and they're like, "Ow, fuck it again!
Got away from me.
God damn it!" And then now, if you watch it, like they're just fanatics, like they're perfect athletes. Like that's exactly the same thing that's happening with women's UFC. It's gonna get so much better, so much fucking faster,
It's
because they're in their
happening, yeah.
infancy.
They're gonna sneak a man in there pretty soon. That's my prediction. They're gonna sneak a dude into
Like a
women's.
trans person.
There's nothing
They're
I
gonna
hate
s-
more than some dude pretending to be a woman and then acting like he dominated the field.
Yeah,
We
they're
covered
Going
that at
to
the opening
sneak
of the
one
show.
in there. It won't be in like hi, I'm Mike and I beat up women for a living. It won't be that. It'll be like, wow, yeah, that Lacey Green, man, she's a killer. She's a killer. Looks like Tyson in there, and she's gone on like a 3-year win streak, and then we find it like we find out she's got a cock.
Do you know
she has a
about
car
Fallon
accident and
Fox?
Her cock falls out, and we're just
We've
who
talked
could
about
believe
Fallon
it?
Fox.
Okay.
Yeah, Fallon, the trans guy.
Right. Yeah. No, she had the surgery.
Whichever the term is.
So she was pretty woman, like on the scale of womanness, she's pretty far along there. Like she didn't have a penis
Which
anymore.
surgery did she have?
She turned herself from a guy into a girl, so she got a
So-
vagina.
Okay.
Yeah, but having said that, she grew up as a guy. She developed like a guy's bone structure.
He has man hands.
Yeah,
that are
man
just
hands.
bigger hands. Like, what was the quote from the lady that fought her? She was like, usually, like the woman she was fighting said something like, "I'm a very strong woman. I'm a fighter. Put me up against any woman on the street, I'm gonna win." And when Fallon Fox grabbed my arm, it was a strength that I had never felt in the ring before. I was trapped. I was locked. I could not move. And it's
Wow.
like, it's funny in that way, like a bit, but it's also like fucked up that this is someone who worked her ass off her whole life to be the best at this. And then someone else goes, "Oh, this is really hard, but I'm a man in a woman's body now. And so I'm just going to go in and destroy this whole league. Like, I'm just going to go in and dominate." Like, how would
Did
she
you see the
not
power
feel?
lifter? The transsexual power lifter?
Yes, that is bullshit too.
Oh my God. They've got a freeze frame of this 40-year-old man, like pressing. I'm going to say, in my head, there are 4 plates on each side. So let's just say they're 45 pounds each. So that's 360 plus the bar, which is 50. Let's round down. So 410 pounds. It appears that this individual is pressing 400 pounds above his head. And it looks like a 42-year-old man, like the hairline, the jawline, like everything. And he is competing in women's powerlifting and has set a new world record. Can you believe it? And
Yeah.
it's just, I just can't. That's such horse shit.
Like
Such
that,
horseshit.
it's going to be a real thing that's going to be a fucking problem in the next couple of years. I swear, the trans people wanting to be in women's athletics will be a problem. There will never, ever, ever be an instance of a woman becoming a man and then deciding, "Well, it turns out I'm way better at football than I ever imagined. I'm going out for the NFL."
Slick.
But
They
because
can't play
sports-
those big
yeah.
mitts on me.
Because sports are a meritocracy, as they should be. The best people get it, and the best people play. It doesn't matter what your race is. Look at basketball. Like, if black people are the best, fucking put them on there. Hockey, if fucking Russians are the best, or Canadians, just fucking throw them on there. It doesn't matter. It's all about how good you are. And people are eventually going to start going into women's leagues, trans people, because they know they're going to be able to run the gambit, like, and just win. Like, and that's going to be something where all those female athletes, those genetically female athletes, are going to have to sit there and pretend to be okay with it while society figures out what to do and be like, I worked my entire life to get to this point. I worked everything I have. I spent lots of money and made a lot of difficult decisions. And this man masquerading as a woman has defeated me. I'm very upset. But it's also, I'm tolerant and I'll carry her flag or whatever they want me to do.
Like I worked so hard that I stopped getting a period, only to be beaten by someone who's never fucking had one a day in their life. Bullshit.
That happened was it Texas high school wrestling? We talked about it on PKA. Yeah, and some dude just, he identified as a girl. He identified as someone who kicks girls' asses.
Hey, what's the national martial art of Israel?
Krav Maga, something like that.
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh.
It came to me last night in bed, and I was like, "I'm a genius!" And then I Googled it today. Oh, it's fucking. That's the oldest joke ever, apparently.
Isn't that the worst? When you think you came up with a funny joke, and then you look it up, and you're like, "Oh, I'm just a parallel thinking idiot." Like,
but I
like
wasn't
Schumer.
as. But think about the
I was gonna
process
go
that I
Schumer
went
on
through.
that.
I wasn't a big enough asshole to be like, no one ever thought of jiu-jitsu. I immediately was like, I bet you a lot of people. Yep. I didn't even have to get all the way through Itsu.
What was I
But
gonna
yeah, it's a shitty situation because the biggest victims and all that are all the girls who are just trying to play sports in a league that they can be competitive in. Like it's just not fair. And the rule should
The
just
biggest
be
victim is that guy at Nike who has to come out, figure out how to make a women's fucking sports garment that'll conceal this guy's balls.
He's the biggest victim in all this.
Yoga pants really aren't doing it, are they?
The
Just
real
got a
trouble is Trey Morris over there. That guy's fucked. He sits in his cubicle all day working on
Rebecca,
testicle
with your
concealment.
Rebecca, with your bicycle shorts, the guys over at Nike want to know, do you dress to the left or right?
Dude, I'm envious of the St. Louis Blues. There was a fleeting moment last week where it looked like the Hurricanes might win. Maybe it was before the show. Or it was right around there. They were literally like a win and a half, an overtime loss, out of tying for a playoff spot. And it was like, this could happen. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're hot as hell. They're out there melting the ice. They could do it. And then they lost 2 games or something. And the team that they're trying to catch is, I'm out of date now, but they were in like a 5-game winning streak, and there was just no catching them. And now it's over.
Yeah, they were. They can still technically make it if the Islanders
And Boston.
Ottawa, and Boston, and Tampa Bay don't win any more games, and Carolina wins all the remaining games. But I'm pretty sure some of those
plane crashes,
yeah, that's what you would need. But
They need an
the
MMA
West,
situation. If Boston would just say, you know what, I'm feeling kind of blue, we're not doing it, and then maybe someone could take their spot, a last minute replacement.
Boston's going to
see
have
that
a
movie?
fucking riot if they miss the playoffs again, because this will be the third year in a row where the last game of the season is you win, you make the playoffs, you lose, you miss the playoffs. And if they do that again this year, it'd be fucking hilarious. Because I don't have any pity for teams that have won a Stanley Cup in the last 10 years. And so...
Oh, then you must not like the Hurricanes.
No, it's 11 years ago now. They're all good. So I'm fine with the Hurricanes. I'm fine with the Flyers. I'm fine with the Devils. But fuck Chicago. Even Tampa Bay, I like them. But when something bad happens to them, that's kind of just like the attitude of fuck. No, Tampa Bay. They haven't won in the last 10 years. That was 13 years ago, 12 years ago. But yeah, I'm hoping the Blues do okay in the playoffs. We don't have a couple of our good centers, which is bad news, and we brought up a couple young guns from the AHL. Kyle, you gonna say something? Oh, it was a burp. Okay,
it was a burp. Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Kyle's got some hockey talk. Oh no, it was a burp.
Both the Flyers and the Hurricanes would make the playoffs if they were in the West.
If they were in the West, it's hard to know because you'd have to pick 2 teams to swap them out for. For the records.
I hear you. And I know it's not that simple. I'm just saying that it was easier over there this year.
The Metro division has been awesome this year. Strongest by a good bit. And the Atlantic has been, I guess Atlantic and Pacific. Probably Pacific a little weaker overall. But I don't know. The bottom part of Atlantic's just not good. But I don't know. I just don't want Chicago to win. And that's really the end of my list. I don't expect the Blues to win the Stanley Cup. And more than anything, I don't want Chicago to win again. And so if I were a smart man, I'd put $5,000 on Chicago today and reap the benefits as soon as it happens.
The bottom part of the Atlantic looks a good bit better than the bottom part of the Pacific. I don't know.
Because of Arizona, mainly. Arizona's fucking horrible there. But I guess you're right there. Yeah, the Atlantic Division is more clustered up.
Vancouver's lousy too, yeah.
Vancouver started the year real good for very briefly, and then they fell to shit.
They pulled the Flyers.
Yeah. Actually, no, the Flyers, they broke an NHL record this year.
No one has ever had a 10-game win streak and not made the playoffs before. We're so proud.
True. No team has ever won 10 games in a row and then missed the playoffs, which is...
It's a good one to have, I guess.
No, it's not great because the Blues have tons of ones like that. They're the only team, the oldest team to have never won a single game in the Stanley Cup Finals, because the only time they made it was in the late '60s, early '70s when they played the original 6 teams in the finals and got shit rocked by the fucking Canadians who just grabbed all the good Canadians around Montreal and put them on the team. But yeah, it's all right. Eventually, no, they won't win ever. That's all right. I'm resigned to it. I'm gonna put a snarky thing about the Blues on my tombstone, but it's not gonna be that thing where it's like, I hope they can be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time. It's not gonna be that one. I hopefully have plenty of time to think, but I will put one.
At least you're in the playoffs.
I was gonna change the topic.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Rick and Morty Season 3 premiered on April Fool's Day, and we had a bit of a hard time even convincing Woody to click the link, I feel like.
So slow. Dude, when I started watching it, I watched the last, I'll say 2 minutes of the show, because it was just looping and looping.
On a loop, yeah.
And so it ends with nonsensical Rick talk into threats or whatever. And I was like, this isn't even...
9 more years, Morty! 9 more years of this! Rick and Morty, 9 more years! 97 more episodes!
And I was like, this isn't even the show. I thought I was... Remember the court case where, Rick and Morty did the voices and that guy, was talking to the judge? I thought it was something like that. I was like, listen... Because they came out on April Fool's Day. And I had my guard up so strong against being fooled that I didn't believe what was true. It wasn't until like 15 minutes in that I believed it was a real episode.
I couldn't believe that Chiz jumped. I just put it on Skype and like let it sit there. Like there was no, oh my God, look everyone. It was, I literally wrote like, I put the link there and it said, Woody, this is season 3, episode 1 of Rick and Morty, and then just walked away. And my hope was that he was going to go, not today. And then nobody was going to jump in and like start discussing the episode, and that we'd get here today and he'd be like, yeah, you tried to get me with that. And we'd all be like, you haven't seen it yet? Like I was hoping for it, but Chiz just jumps in. He's like, yeah, it's on a fucking loop and it's playing until midnight. Get in there, watch it now. And I didn't want any spoilers, and I wanted to watch it from the beginning, which was kind of tough. So what I would do, what I did was I went on Reddit and I started looking at Reddit comments, and I timed it out. You know, they said that there was a couple of commercial breaks, 22 to 23 minute episode, and so I had like this, and then I knew when it had started and when the loops were happening, so I was able to time it within a couple of minutes, and I would jump in, see that it wasn't like the end or the beginning or a commercial, which is what I was looking for, and then go away. And then jump back in every like 30 seconds until I hopped right in a commercial, and then it just begins, at Shoney's and everything. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. It was great. Really excited for this season.
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was magic or anything though. Like it was Rick and Morty. It really was.
That was crazy. They took out the whole intergalactic empire. He destroyed the entire citadel of Ricks. He killed dozens of Ricks, dozens of Mortys. I saw a Morty's eyeballs pop out. Hey, a Rick used
the hammer
Morty.
Yeah.
The hammer Morty. Man, I don't know if you get it.
I want to watch it again. I felt a little let down. I wanted the escape from jail to be like 3 episodes of daring do and whatever. And no, it wasn't like that. It was like he's just put on his superhero hat and did anything he wanted.
Well,
he was Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. Like 70 people shooting at him at once, and he just shoots back and doesn't get hit.
The beginning of the episode where he does the thing where he says like, oh, remember that? How I was in jail last time? I somehow got out of it or something. Like, I know that's how I escaped out of intergalactic. You remember I was in jail just a few weeks ago, Morty? Like, I got out of it somehow. Like, they were like, whatever it was. Like, I didn't like that for the same reason Woody said, and feeling really silly because it is a commercial or a cartoon show, so it shouldn't matter as much. Right. But seeing that, I was like, oh, God damn it. I wanted to see how he got out of the prison.
Well, wait a minute. They showed that. Well, hang on. I think you're a bit. Think about this for a minute. Like the whole thing at Shoney's was them trying to fool Rick's mind with the whole illusion. Like they had made Rick think that he had escaped from.
I was being too obtuse there. I guess I was meaning more specifically. When he's in that thing, like suspended in like the crucifix pose, and he's got like all the monsters next to him, and they're like, "What are you waiting for?" He's like, "Everything," and then they fucking leave. I wanted to see him, how he would break out of that, because I had in my head some like master scheme of him somehow manipulating all the other criminal aliens and starting his own federation.
How exactly do you smart your way out of handcuffs? Show me that. And they didn't. All of a sudden he's, I don't know, armed and running around and shooting people. I need to watch it again. I feel like I don't quite know everything.
Well, what happens is they need Rick. They can't just lock him away and throw the key away. He has too much valuable information. He's the most intelligent man in existence, in any existence. And he is the rickiest Rick of them all. So he is smarter than all of them. And so they want to extract that knowledge from him, specifically the portal gun. They want to know how to get to other dimensions because they're a singular dimensional intergalactic group of insectoids or whatever the fuck. And so they can't just lock him away, throw the key away. They're trying to get that out of his brain. And so he creates that elaborate like ruse inside of his own head and like turns the tables on them and then writes that formula on the ground. And when they enter that formula into their computers, they give him complete access of their computers. And then it just goes from there. And he's transferring his consciousness from one of them to the other. Man, I love that shit. That's one of my favorite Rick and Morty episodes ever.
Didn't they straight up pull that exact same ruse before when like he gave them the wrong formula and they entered it and it fucked him up?
No, he gave the way it did before is he told them how to make crystallized xanthanite or some made up thing. And he's like, you take these two things and then you add tap water, and he gave them the wrong explanation on how to make these energy crystals, and then they ended up killing themselves when they tried to do it. Yeah.
That sounds very similar to.
It is very similar. It's really the only thing that changes is the means by which they blow up. So in one, it's more direct, and the other one, it's through a code.
So, what he did this time around gives him gives him control over the computer program he's in, then gets him out of it. And then from there, of course, like the SEAL team Rick comes in or whatever and like messes his plan up. So he's like, I was about to go up to level 9 and change the currency from 1 to 0, but now I guess I'll just transfer my consciousness through 2 or 3 Ricks, go all the way to the Citadel of Ricks, and then beam it into the mid. I love that when he like beamed it into the middle of the prison, and it's all like sticking out sideways and shit's flying everywhere. I really dug the episode, and I love that they did it on April Fool's Day, because I'm sure so many people saw Rick and Morty. It's out, it's out, and we're just like, not today.
I like any kind of thing that like those companies do, especially Adult Swim seems to do a good thing with this, where they do marketing and certain things in a way that kind of flies in the face of propriety, where they're like, you know, for most companies, if they were like, hey, let's do the newest episode of Walking Dead as a surprise, and we just put it out there and stream it, and we see what happens. Like the ABC or whatever fucking channel has Walking Dead, they would be like, AMC, they would be like, yeah, no, we're not going to get any ad dollars for that. We're not going to be able to monetize it at all. And then like when people like Adult Swim or Rick and Morty do it, it's very endearing. It's like a good faith. It's a way to build good faith for your brand. Like nobody would think that Rick and Morty is like a YouTuber in 2012 that uploaded a Call of Duty video every 10 days, and then they uploaded one every 2 months, and then they uploaded one 3 times in a day, and then they uploaded one 10 days later. Like, and people hated those YouTubers because they're like, God damn it, I can't get any structure. I don't know when to come back. You would think that their fans would hate them, but they just little things like this make a world of difference, because people are like, well, goddamn, like they looked out for us a little bit.
It's a nice
today.
Surprise. Yeah, it's like a gift. Yeah, and then like you said, if it were Walking Dead, they would be planning it forever and promoting it and structure. And Walking Dead ended. I don't know if you guys watch Walking Dead.
Oh, the whole show ended.
No, the season ended, and it was a good show. I know Kyle hasn't seen it yet, but it turns out. So Walking Dead, by the way, keep in mind, 16 episodes. So it's a big thing. There's a lot of shows, 16-hour episodes, and the whole year is kind of background building and hype for next year. And that to me seems like I like it.
That always sucks.
Yeah, right? There are a lot of people who act like I don't have the attention span and maturity for good things. But it's like, dude, I don't know, man. I liked it with Better Call Saul somehow, mostly. But it just seems, I feel like this is the lost year. You know? The whole thing was just Rick trying to sort of build friends.
I don't like what people say like about Walking Dead. What you're saying when people are like, "Oh, you just you have to enjoy the down seasons to appreciate the up seasons." Where it's like, no, that applies to moments. You need to appreciate the down moments so that you can when an up moment happens in that episode or that series of episodes, you can go, oh, that was really good. That was great. I hate it when shows have entire seasons and the reason they do that is because the season before, as they were storyboarding at the end of it and being like, all right, this is where we're going to go from here and shit like that. They're like, oh, fuck. Actually, no, damn it. We can't jump right into there. That doesn't make any sense. Well, how do we get them to Barbados? Okay, well, we got to do fucking this first, and then they get a long, protracted thing, and they don't truncate it into like a little area. It just becomes a whole season. It always feels like panicky almost, where they know they're running out of shit. I think The Office and Parks and Rec had a season like that, and they're not even story building shows. But they had shows like at least one whole season in The Office at the end where it was just shit. I know Kyle disagrees because you like The Office the whole way through.
The Office, like the 10th season, 9th season is pretty shaky at times. Like when you got Andy taking them to like, Andy's the boss and he takes them to, what's the battlefield up in Pennsylvania? Gettysburg. That's a weak fucking episode. There's an episode where there's a couple episodes where they just find an excuse to leave the office and like go do something as a group of people, which is kind of silly.
Which doesn't happen. Yeah.
There's one where, long story short, they all end up in a work bus in the parking lot, and then they drive the work bus somewhere, and it's like, this is the later seasons aren't that great, I guess. Let me tell you what I've been sucked into by Chiz partially. I like Rogan. I like most of his guests. I like going into it and stuff. But I started listening to the ones with Graham Hancock on there and this other scientist whose name I can't recall.
This is his podcast.
And yeah, the podcast. And then that got me really interested in Graham Hancock. Now, he's this scientist who, over the course of the last 20 or 30 years, has been collecting evidence to support his theories. And he's got a ton of evidence. Basically, it takes many hours to get the full grasp of what he's basically proven at this point. But it seems that human history, as he puts it, is built upon sand. It's not built on a firm foundation, at least our idea of early human history, which is that we started as these hunter-gatherers and slowly evolved into what we are today. He proposes, and he puts forward tons and tons of evidence, from ice cores to the materials that are being used, and carbon dating that's hyper reliable because of the situation that they're in. That human civilization around, I think it's 12,000 years ago, there was this comet impact over North America that flash melted the ice caps there. Sea levels went up 300 feet, and it started this period known as the Younger Dryas, where the temperature of the Earth dropped by 18 to 20 degrees centigrade and stayed like that for 1,200 years. And all this is factual. This is from you can tell by the oxygen levels in the CO2 levels in the atmosphere from the ice cores in Greenland. That this happened, and it lasted for 1,200 years. And what he believes, and what many of these people believe, is that before this happened, human civilization had gotten to the point, this 12,000 years ago, had gotten to the point of having mathematics, astronomy, being able to build great temples and monolithic structures and things like that, which flies in the face of traditional archaeology. And of course, and over the course of this thing, I bought his book last night. I'm quarter of the way into the book now, but one of the main pieces of cool evidence is this place in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. It's I think the name translates in Turkish to pot-bellied hill, and that's what it looked like. It looked like this pot-bellied hill out in the middle of the plains. And what they have found is that there are stone megalithic structures that were purposefully buried 12,000 years ago, right at the time of this great cataclysm. They were buried purposefully. They were used for a few thousand years and then sealed in with earth. And because they're sealed in, the carbon dating on the material that's at the bottom of it is super reliable. It goes back to 12 to 15,000 years. And these things were originally, when they were discovered, they were like, oh, well, that's medieval work there. Like that's not what we're here for. The team from Boston University was like, that's medieval stonework you're looking at there. We're here for ancient stonework. And they just wrote it off. It's not medieval stonework. It looks like medieval stonework because it's so fucking good. And the carvings are so good. There's all these like high relief, which means like deeply carved carvings of lions and all kinds of animals and human beings. And some of these human beings are tall with beards holding handbags, curved handle, square handbag. They go to Mexico. There's another picture of these tall bearded men with their handbags. And in the legends from Mexico to Assyria to Turkey to all these ancient religions, there's a name for them. And they claim in all of these different societies and civilizations that these people were from a lost civilization. Sometimes they're revered as gods or spirits or men from a magical land. But they're the ones who supposedly came to these people and taught them agriculture and raised them up from being cavemen. So what he believes is that people from what we would call Atlantis today, some sort of super civilization that existed before this great cataclysm, was completely wiped off the earth by the rising sea levels. Think about where man settles traditionally along the coastlines. All of those were swallowed up. Things like the story of Atlantis is really interesting because they have it's a fictional thing, we think of it, but it came from Plato. Plato passed that story down to us from his ancestor, whose name is like Solon. Yes, Solon. Solon went to Egypt, and he talked to the priest there. And he asked them, when did all this happen? When the world ended and we started anew? And when did Atlantis sink? And the priests in Egypt told Solon 9,000 years ago from now. That was 600 BC. That's 9,600 BC to us. That's when this fucking meteor hit. So the Egyptians claimed that Atlantis sunk at the exact same time that this meteor or this comet struck the Earth and caused the water levels to rise. It's really fucking fascinating. And I've
It
been
really
seems
wanna
this
see
seems
this
like
guy.
super interesting in the way that like when I start getting into it, like I'll want to believe certain things about it because it's like this is really neat if it happened this way. But it seems like something where there's a lot of backfilling, where it's like, oh, these people that covered people in honey and forced them to be eaten by bugs to death, they had a real good understanding of a 10,000 year calendar as well.
They
Like I don't know.
I
And
want
also like
this guy
the
to
bearded
be-
and the bagged thing.
I want to see him debate someone who knows enough to debate him, right? Because I hear this, and I have no background to challenge it as either true or false. It's not connecting puzzle pieces for me. I really don't have other puzzle pieces. This is the only piece I have. Hey, look, Kyle gave me a piece of this puzzle, and I hope it fits in with the rest. Who knows, right?
This is- yeah.
And I don't want to
Can I
see
just
him
say,
on Joe
like, I know
Rogan's
where you're
show.
coming from, and I have these same thoughts.
Yeah, I want to see him against like a college professor who teaches an alternative history and hear them sort of mesh it out.
He brings that up constantly. So a few of the things that the evidences he uses, he explains throughout his thing. He's like, they won't even talk to me about this. They hate me. No one will discuss this. You bring it up to them and they walk out of the room like you just asked Trump about a Russian connection. Because the
hope
new
that's what he
evidence in the
says.
carbon dating like flies really in the face of what's traditionally believed. Now, the men with the handbags and stuff, that's the stuff that gets toward the fringe for me. Even though it's carved in a fucking stone on two sides of the earth, the stuff that's real, though, is the Greenland ice cores that they drilled that show the CO2 levels, which accurately give us the temperature of the Earth and the oxygen levels at the time. So they can definitely use that to tell that these temperature levels change drastically, pinpoint it. Also, they have a layer of soot ash that's from that exact period of time that could be dated there that would have been caused by the gigantic conflagration of all the forest burning. They also have these impact diamonds that are only created by meteor impacts and comet impacts on the Earth. They hit the ground and create such pressure and temperature that they create these hexagonal diamonds. Those exist in those same layers of the Earth in that same period of time. They also have what's called nuclear glass. It's the glass that's formed from a nuclear explosion when sand is melted. That's in that layer too.
So what is the conclusion that's being drawn from all this that seems to deter because if the guy's saying, I'm trying to talk about this with scientists all the time and they're just ignoring me, like what is his conclusion from all this?
So what it seems is that archaeology isn't a science in the way that biology and astronomy are. You know, there isn't as much scientific process involved with it. Where you get your facts in archaeology, it seems, is X professor teaches it this way. Everyone believes what X professor says because he did the research and he's the one who knows. And when you've got new information, like when they found Göbekli Tepe, and it just, the stones that are in there are not supposed to be able to be shaped that way in that period of time. It's during a time where traditional archaeology says that we were hunters and gatherers who just nomadically walked around with spears and addles. But these things are huge. They're 20 tons, I think, 40 tons. They're 20 feet tall. There's 50 different sites, they believe. They're all buried in. Just the burying of this, when you see it, just what it would have taken for men thousands of years ago with, I presume, baskets full of rubble to make trips back and forth, it's insane. It's not the sort of thing that some hunter-gatherers would have done. It would have required like an organized labor force and months of planning and years of work, and then you got to provision all those people. And keep in mind, this is a time where we're not even supposed to have specialized labor yet. Specialized labor is when agriculture allows for surpluses. That means that I don't have to feed myself. I can learn to chisel stone now. I can be a stone worker. Those aren't supposed to exist at that time in history. We're all supposed to be doing one thing, and that's fucking and fighting and getting food. And they're all about the same thing.
That's kind of three things
when you say it, but it's always like
they're all
I punched a hole in your theory already.
it's the same. Like what you're saying, like it all makes sense to me, but it's exactly like when it's like, oh, this whole bar's green. It runs on burnt trash. It's totally green that way. All that smoke goes up into the sky and it creates stars. It doesn't sound right. I don't know enough to dispute it. Like
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Like,
Don't believe me. Go either get his book because it's like $10 and the reason I immediately like pressed buy, he was like, please just buy the book because that further funds me and I go out in the field. And he does. Like, this isn't a guy who sits like in somewhere and like types a bunch of shit and like bullshits. Like, he's all over the planet, all over. He's been to Egypt countless times and he's going on these expeditions to Turkey and like their group, because they're kind of flying in the face of like traditional archaeology. Sometimes they're scrimping money together to get ex-scientists from this Robert Schoch guy from I want to say Boston University, but that's probably not right. Like, he had to fly him to Egypt to look at the Sphinx, because the thing about the Sphinx is traditional archaeology says it was built between 2,500 and 4,500 years ago by the Egyptians, but it's got water erosion on it, and there wasn't water precipitation in the Egyptian delta significant enough to do that. The last time that happened was 12,000 years ago also.
This is
the
both the
Sphinx was
strength.
12,000 years old.
This is both the strength and weakness of science. I promise I'll let you go. But it's like, what's cool about this is when science is wrong, usually they'll get around to saying, okay, mess that one up. This is our new theory, right? So science can never stay wrong because they just switch to whatever's right. But when science is proven wrong, you're also like, well, what else are you wrong about? You know, at least the church over there has been consistent with their message. You know, stay away from your shellfish.
And you have to like keep in mind, like it's so easy to be like, oh, that's done, said and done. We all believe that, and we're all okay with it. But there's absolutely shit. I don't know what it is, but there's absolutely shit that's totally scientifically accepted right now that we're gonna find out in 10 years. 15 years, maybe 5 years, is like, oh man, we didn't just have that wrong. We were actually doing the wrong thing. Oh, fuck. Oh,
I
this
feel
is
like
make us
I've
look
watched
bad.
that happen 5 times with diets. Now, the general idea of what eating right is more or less consistent. But I'll tell you, when I was a kid, milk was considered a health food. You know, like they would like force us to drink it every dinner because milk makes you big and it's like spinach and Popeye, right? Now milk is viewed as kind of, it's better than soda, I guess, but like
it's more middle of the road. It's not this superfood.
Exactly. And you know, the calories in, calories out thermodynamics thing that you've heard me fuss about, this and that. Well, I think that's generally on the right idea. All these diets are generally on the right idea. The paleo diet, like, you only eat things that cavemen would have digested without cooking. Yeah, well, if you think about it, that pretty much means like you eat vegetables and stuff like that. And, you know,
and you also, did you read a sign or wipe your ass that day? You're not going whole hog into this. Like, they weren't really wise people. And like the diet thing,
theory is that
like,
the bodies were evolved for that diet. So do that diet and you'll have a great physique. But when you look at it, it's like, oh, well, that diet is actually pretty close to the one your teacher probably told you about, with like fruits and vegetables and nuts and things like that. But I think my theory is they're going to be like, I'm making shit up, so it's not going to be exactly right. But they're going to be like, oh yeah, when you eat this, your body has this like insulin response that triggers it to do this or that, and you know, this kind of food satiates your feeling of hunger more than that kind does, and you know, this kind is more easily converted to fat, and that kind just goes straight to the poop chute. And like, I suspect that's where we'll be at some point.
They'll never, like, dieting's an interesting example, but that'll never be fully figured out, really. Or it'll be figured out. I'm sure they've got it pretty much down pat.
Yeah, they're probably close to that.
But it will never be a unanimous decision on what's best, because there's too much fucking money to be made to convince people that losing weight and getting in shape, it's not just eating right and working out. It is a huge, laborious science of steps and measuring and timing and this.
Powders.
And you can't do this on your own. People try it on their own all the time. The best people try this on their own and they fail. I can't lose weight to save my life. I eat McDonald's twice a day. And people.
I've tried everything on KFC's menu. Nothing works.
I've tried everything except for moving more and eating less. And like, that's all that you have to do. Like, and when you're eating healthy, like, you don't have to be, you know, The Rock, where he posts like all those like celebrities who post pictures on Instagram of their meticulously laid out diet plan. And it's like, wow, The Rock, I bet you personally just spent 7 hours preparing your meals for this week in your kitchen. Wow, I bet you did that. That's real. Like, I bet you did. He didn't. I guarantee it.
There's a whole subreddit for that. Where you,
yeah,
you know,
I looked at that today. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it seems like a good idea, but
It
that
is.
is a good idea. It's a great idea, but you don't have to have all these supplements and all these crazy things to get in better shape. But if you can tell someone and convince them that it's easy, the exact same reason that one of the best lines in marketing out there are weight loss pills that say, "This is for serious weight loss. If you only need to lose 4 or 5 pounds, this is not for you." Oh, magnifique, brilliant, fucking brilliant, because you have just found everybody who needs 4 pounds to lose in the country, and you have them sitting there going, "Oh shit, this isn't for me." Well, they couldn't. I mean, it's still safe. I mean, what's going to happen? What's worst case scenario? I lose a little bit
10?
too much weight? I mean, I don't think that's an issue. Like, if it works for these fat monsters, how it's going to work for me? That's exactly what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
Like,
the first time I heard that commercial, I was like, "You're not fucking with me. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. You're not manipulating me, drug company, but I am gonna test your product, though, 'cause you got a good slogan."
these are some pretty incredible claims you're making. You know?
I think it's fun when Taylor's marketing expertise comes out. Like, yeah, every so often he's like, yeah, marketing nowadays, it's hardly about creativity. It's about numbers and statistics and research. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I'm in Mad Men territory. Like, I thought it was about some underappreciated girl over there who came up with great ideas and guys took credit for it. I thought that's how this all worked.
That's like what was funny watching Mad Men, like, because I watched it years ago before I got more into advertising and marketing professionally, and I'd watch, and like one of the scenes that jumped out at me was, I was never a huge fan, didn't watch a ton, but when Don Draper's sitting there with the cigarette company Lucky Strike, and his idea is like, "It's toasted. That's it." And people are like, "But it's all toasted." He's like, "Yeah, but that doesn't matter because we're implying that they're not toasted." And it's like, man, being in marketing in the 50s would have been so easy. Just being like, "This sounds pretty good." Does someone want to look it up and see if someone else has done it? Look it up. What do you mean? You're right. Fuck it. Let's keep going.
Where would we look?
Now it's so many numbers and so much data that it's like you can, like, it's not intuitive really at all. You can be like, "Man, I think that people would really respond to this kind of messaging," and then you go out there and you run a test and you're like, "Oh shit, man, once again I broke the #1 rule of marketing: never use yourself as an example," because people don't engage with this. Like, that's the hardest thing, is people want to treat it intuitively, but it's not, because you want to believe that everybody thinks the same as you, but they don't.
There's a parallel in computer programming. Computer programmers, they have all these like business ideas and things. And what do they build? Tools for computer programmers. Like if we just had a better text editor, I'd take over the world. You fuck. You're the only guy doing text editing. Like, you're the only one who thinks that if you could align parentheses better, that this would be $1 billion idea. The truth is everyone else is like Facebooking.
Because you put yourself in there. And he's like, "For me, I would love this service, and I would pay $100 a month for it. I bet other people would too." Like, if there were, like, it'd be like me being like, "We're going to start a business where every month you send a fun fact booklet of Lord of the Rings trivia to people's houses. We're going to charge 10 a month, call it Loader for Fun," and that's what it's going to be. But yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. I strongly suggest that if either of you were a little, if your interest was piqued at all by my talk about the Hancock guy, you watch the Joe Rogan Experience that has him on it. I'll link it here, because it's him and it's that other guy, Randall Carlson, who's also a scientist, and he does a lot of field work too. So
nice.
They kind of go back and forth, and they both strongly believe in this theory of the meteor, the comet impacts that sparked the beginning of the Younger Dryas, and that's all accepted science, that there is a Younger Dryas, that there is that period of temperature change. That is hard factual
science. Do you know where
science.
the impact is?
North America. They think it was Canada, because there was Here's the thing. They think that this ice cap was flash melted. I kind of skipped over that, but they think when this thing exploded in the atmosphere and melted an amount of ice that's just extraordinary. It's hard to even fathom. And they have all of this evidence for where the water went, and they can show you where it spilt and created these elliptical canyons, these horseshoe waterfall canyons and stuff. It's really fascinating to go down the rabbit hole with these two guys.
There's a really big meteor strike. I don't know where it is. It's like in an American desert somewhere, so say like Arizona or something. And it's amazing to look at. It's gigantic. It's I don't know why people don't visit it more, but it's a place that paramotorists like to fly. Like, they can wake up early in the morning and fly in this like giant meteor strike.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I was hoping it was that one, but
No, they don't know where this one.
Probably not.
They don't have an impact
big,
crater,
though.
and he's to get to your point, like is this pseudoscience? Is this fringe science? He goes back and he explains that the whole idea of the dinosaurs being done in by an asteroid was completely laughed at for a long time as well, and it wasn't until when they finally found the impact crater down there in the Gulf of Mexico that everybody was just like, all right, I guess that's what fucking happened then, because you got the crater, and you've got the hexagonal diamonds that are created by by that impact, and you've got the nuclear glass is what there's another name for nuclear glass, but it's glass that's created by sand melting when a fucking nuclear bomb goes off or when a meteor hits real hard.
so I have it. I'll show it to people. This is the Arizona nuclear strike. Or I'm sorry, meteor strike.
Meteor.
And it's really big. Like it would.
And the
seem
thing with
huge.
all these is they're always like, look at the size of this hole. Did you know that this was made by a meteor the size of a pack of chiclets or something? Like some like ridiculous stat.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I wish I could remember
didn't
how
think
big
of
they
that.
said the one that that created this whole thing was, but it's not enormous.
Yeah, like it was probably like the size of a fridge or something. Like it's ridiculous how much energy those things have.
What if we had a meteor strike and it like cooled everything off and solved global warming? Like it just like yeah, you know what? Now we need carbon because it's fucking cold out, and if we could warm the place up by a little bit, that'd help.
How big of that would be the biggest problem solver ever. Just be like, all right, you know what, Bangladesh, keep producing, keep doing your thing. We're not cutting you off.
That's one of the most interesting parts when he's like laying this whole case out, because he lays it out over the case of hours. He's like, all right, now like modern climatologists are freaking out that our temperature has supposedly raised by 1.2 degrees over the last 200 years. And then he shows you the CO2 map, and it's this zigzag line that goes north to south. And he's like, right here, it changed 20 degrees centigrade in a day. In a day. Like we're talking about 200 years of man's industrial work supposedly has raised the temperature like by 1.5 degrees. And they're terrified of 2 degrees. And this was 20 degrees overnight globally. The entire temperature dropped. It's real fun to watch.
So
It's interesting.
last summer was hot, right? And for people who, like when they talk about global warming, they talk about like tenths of a degree, 1 degree, etc. The median temperature in July in Raleigh is like 89, and it just seemed like that's the median high, I mean to say, and it seemed like it was hitting 98 like 20 of those days, 20 out of 30 days. It broke 100 a bunch, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I thought global warming was a degree, and it's like 10 degrees, 15
Well,
degrees.
it's 1 degree of the average temperature of the entire planet, though, going up. So
I fully understand that. I'm sure somebody in like Vietnam was like, dude, it was cold this July and balanced me off. Like, I don't mean to put you, I'm just saying, like, there's probably someone, I picked that randomly. But,
I hear you.
but I just like, dude, how fucking hot is it going to be this summer? Is it going to be 100 all the time again? I got to get skinny. I can't take this fucking heat.
I'm fine with winter continuing the way it's been, because the last 2 winters have been perfect.
Oh, yeah?
Like no snow. I think we got more snow in March than we did in February this year, by a lot, because that was kind of aggravating. Is like, those like March 18th snows where you're like, you couldn't get this out of your fucking system like 6 weeks ago. But yeah, I'm fine. Summer, I'd rather have a summer that's too hot than a winter that's too shitty, I think, if I had to pick one.
Oh, it's a tough one. Yeah, I would like it if March was as nice as February this year. Yeah, that'd be cool, in terms of heat. But yeah, the hot summers, they're pretty hot. We're getting a pool. Maybe that'll change my attitude on stuff.
yeah, that'll be nice.
You're going to be loving it. You're going to be just, running all your lights and lamps and your extra generator just for the fuck of it to keep the weather the same. Like, just sitting out there by your pool.
I hope that works out. I just know it's not going to. I just know it. Yeah, they seem competent and stuff, but I remember in computer programming, the first milestone or two were never missed, because they was just like, hey, did we agree on objectives? And even if you didn't, you could just say yes, because like, what the fuck? Yeah, we did. We had our first milestone. Aren't we awesome? And it wasn't until like code had to run that people had to admit whether things were on time or not. And now we're at a stage where like, hey, did you get the permit? And they're like, yeah, we got permits. Permits are cool. Hey, can we get another copy of your survey? Oh, okay. But you got the permit? Like, I'm a little confused, but here's a hand, And when they have to like break ground and do shit, then we'll know if we're on schedule or not.
It's going to be an ordeal, I anticipate, because I know my parents moved around willy-nilly growing up. And even after they divorced, when I was bouncing around those houses, they moved around a couple times each then. So I've lived in like 10 or 11 different houses, all in the St. Louis metro area. And they put pools in most of those houses because as I was growing up, they were really big into the like, we get the house, we fucking fix it up, throw a pool in, and then we are fucking out of there again. And then we go to a new place, make some money on that flip. And then, I mean, if you want to flip your house, putting a pool in is the best way to do it. Or that and granite, like, nice backsplash slate, a lot of things you can do that aren't that expensive, but the pool's the big seller in a lot of situations. And every time they would go and be like, we're getting the pool in, boys, it'll be in by July. And I'm like, no, it won't. It will not be in by July because I'm 16 and this is my 7th house and I've watched this go down and it will not be done. And it was never done. It was always an ordeal. It was a new company that they had do the pool like seemingly every time because they're like, oh, do we want to go back to Jim Bob's Pool and Spa? No, Jim Bob's a real cunt and he screwed us over last time. Oh, how about we go to Ellisville Pool Co. Oh, fuck, that didn't work either. They took 6 weeks and then they just left a big concrete pit in our backyard with no paving around it for a month and a half, and it looked awful all summer. And then it rained a bunch, slid a bunch of mud into the concrete, and they had to redo the whole thing. Like it was an ordeal. So I wish you luck.
Thank you. One thing they did right, they kind of set expectations. So first of all, June 17th is the day. That's the day it's supposed to be done. Of course, I don't believe it. I'm not new to contracting, but that's what they're saying. But what he also said was like, look, a first-year pool is a first-year pool. Even if this thing goes completely on schedule and all's cool, it'll be surrounded by muddy red clay. It'll be, it won't look right. He's like, it's going to be a first-year pool. So I'm like, all right. Yeah, I kind of get that. So probably next year will be a nicer pool experience.
Are you getting it heated?
No. You can add a heater later. That's one thing about heaters. But I'm not, I don't know. We'll see. We'll add a heater later if we want one. We have two problems with that. One, electric heaters are kind of expensive to run. Propane heaters, even worse. If we had cheap natural gas like other people do, it'd be more tempted, but it would be propane here.
Make a wood-burning pool.
I've seen that.
My dad got fucking furious at me once when I had a bunch of friends over in high school and we were all swimming and whatnot. It was late at night and they were out doing whatever fucking adult shit they were doing. And a bunch of people over and it was a little bit chilly, not even cold enough to warrant turning the heater on, but probably like a couple of girls were like, oh, it's a little chilly. And so it's like, oh, I'll go do it. And I just did what women seem to do with,
know what you did.
Temperature gauges and thermostats where they go, oh, it's 68. I'd prefer it to be 71. And they go right up to 96. I just turned this pool heater just boom, all the way on. When my dad got home and like felt the pool, he was like, how long have you been running this? How long have you had this on? And I'm like, I don't know, like all day, the whole day. And he's like, well, this pool is 88 degrees. And I was like, this is a big pool too. Keep in mind, this is a large
he starts
fucking
doing
pool.
the math.
And the amount of energy.
Like, you just spent. I'm going to have to find someone to tell me how much money you just wasted. That's how much money you've wasted. I need help to figure it out.
When you leave a light bulb on, if there were like a little like chart like overlaid on a light bulb that showed you how much light you were wasting, it would like tick up 1 penny every hour and a half, every 4 hours. If there was that counter on this pool, it would have been like the stock market, just
like the national
going
debt.
up and up and up. Yes, the national debt just continuing like that website. But the pool felt great, but it was not worth it in the end. He was very unenthused.
I'm almost worried about our pool being too hot. Now, I've never had a pool before and such, but fuck, if it's gonna be 100 degrees every goddamn day,
You'll find yourself being spoiled by it because you'll like get in and. Because I grew up with a pool for so much, you don't appreciate it as much as you did. And so, when I was very young and we got our first pool, it was all day, every day in the summer, splashing around, loving it. Just a couple years later, though, different house, different pool, my dad would be like, you boys want to go out and swim? It's like, ugh, No, not particularly.
Yeah.
It's not even hot. in
I'll
the
have
pool.
to
Like,
change clothes
yeah,
and
I'll have to
afterwards.
change.
Yeah.
I'll be wet. It's only 72 degrees in the pool, and when I get out, I'll be briefly chilly. Like,
I have
so
a
I'm gonna
question
skip it all.
that only Taylor in his affluent childhood could answer. What are those car wash showers like? Like, are they awesome? Are they not that awesome?
I never got the car wash shower when my parents were redoing one of the houses. My brother had a bathroom in our basement, and I had a bathroom in our basement because both of our rooms are down there. And the big room that I wanted was attached to a standard bathroom, and the smaller room that he got by default was attached to this bathroom that needed totally redoing. And so I was like, I'm not going to wait for that to be done. Fuck it. And of course, my mom came down and does the thing she does when she does this shit with houses where it's never just like, oh, we'll just put in a little bit here and that'll make the value more. She's like, this needs to be an Olympic level spa for whoever's child is in this room when we sell this house. And so like I watched like with chagrin as months went by as like the contractor was in there and like putting in like 5 different shower heads on the side. And I only got I would use the shower anytime my brother wasn't using it pretty much. And it was so much better than a traditional shower.
Really?
So much that like if I were in there without my glasses on and my contacts were out and like I turned the wrong way when I was rinsing my eyes and I caught like a like of some other one, there's like a brief bit of panic where you're like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. It's just high-tech shower. It's just water. Okay. But they're great. You should invest in one of those.
Like 3D waterboarding. Yeah,
Or
I
just
like
you
those
can
things
get
a lot.
giant rainforest shower heads they call them.
I don't
where
like
they're
that.
Just like this big, and well, you have to get ones that you can increase the pressure because a lot of them they just like drizzle out, and that's
Yeah, you
annoying.
can't get clean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I need
you need
pressure.
ones that come out with pressure, but those are good.
Yeah, when I get out, I don't want there to be any residue at all. I'm a little OCD about that. Like I think I wonder if people get out and like have like shampoo at like the back of their hair, like behind your ears and like back in that. Like, is that shampooey on some people? Because I fucking guarantee it's not on me. I got that thing of like high pressure. Like just I want to get every bit of soap and shampoo off before I get out of there.
If I finish showering and I have to take a shit within like 30 minutes of finishing the shower, I just shower again. I call it a long.
Oh yeah.
Like strike one for me that day, and I just redo it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my
Oh,
shower
and one more
is
thing about the fucking
normal shower.
the Graham Hancock guy that blew my mind is they went into the Great Pyramid, which he doesn't believe was built as soon as it is. He thinks it's ancient as well. And in like what they call the King's Chamber, there are these holes in the wall that extend like all the way out of the pyramid. Like you're in the center of the pyramid and there's a hole in the wall and you look through it and it goes all the way out the side of the pyramid, points into the sky, and they point at certain stars. They point at stuff so that you can look through there and you're looking right at a certain constellation. And a lot of that's really fascinating. But then they went into this other chamber and this guy was like, why are there no holes in this chamber? There should be holes in this chamber, holes in the other chamber. Why not here? So he walks around with a hammer tapping the walls until he finds one that goes donk, donk. And he's like, huh. And he hits a little harder, and it fucking opens up. There's a hole in that wall, too, that's been covered up for thousands of years. And he looks, and you can't see out of this hole. It's a shaft. And this shaft is like, I don't know, big enough to stick both your arms in, but you'd never crawl in it. Like, this is like coffee can size. And so they send a robot up into this thing, like recently, like 10 years ago or something like that. They send this robot all the way up there. They get way, way up there, and there's a door with 2 handles on it. In this thing that's this big, there's a door with 2 handles on it just blocking the fucking way. And they're like, well, what do we do now? So they send another robot in with a drill on it. They drill through this fucking thing, and they back it off, and they send the camera through. And there's a space, and then another door. And then he's like, and we haven't went back yet. And I'm like,
Oh,
let me buy the book. Let's get him back out there.
This is some Egyptian pharaoh's like dummy tomb, like to ruse the bandits. Where he's like, "What do we do behind this one, Pharaoh? Just put another wall behind it. Just another wall. Keep them looking for my gold."
It's really, really fascinating stuff. And when they start talking about some of the, we've always heard like, how did the Egyptians do it? You know, like all those 100-ton blocks and stuff
A
like
system
that.
of levers and fulcrums.
Yeah, and I don't know. This stuff really goes a long way into explaining that stuff, and it really blew my mind. The whole idea that human civilization has rebooted at least once, because we've been a species for like 1,000,000 years. For like 1,000,000 years we've been physically us, right? Think about over the last
I
100
think
years.
like 200,000 years.
Think about over the last 100 years, though, how quickly we went from riding horses to flying jets at Mach 3 or 4, right? Like that's within how many lifetimes? 2 or 3, 4,
Crazy,
maybe?
right?
Like think about how many generations, the thousands of generations of humans that have come and gone. It easily could have been that we got to the point of not building cars or spaceships, probably. That seems outrageous to me. But we got to a point where we're like, I don't know, got swords and we're living in cities, and then it all gets fucking wiped away. That could have happened 10 times.
To Kyle's point, like if you're born at just the right time, there were people who were alive for the Wright brothers and the moon landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were alive for that. Like, people were born and then only like 60 years old or something when they landed on the moon.
1910 to 1969 or something like that. You know,
Is
it's
that
over the
it?
course of less than 60
Yeah.
years.
It's not a ton.
It's within the
We're
the
like,
lifetime.
First flight,
if
1903.
life is,
He's going to be
No,
right.
3. I thought it was 1910 is cars, isn't it? That's the Model A Ford, I think.
I know. I
Okay,
just Googled it.
but yeah, we're gonna keep evolving. But we're like almost in the point of like the
1969.
Civ game of life, where we're in like the last quintile of the game, where we're getting too big for our britches. Everyone is getting too big for their respective britches.
Oh, we've got.
No, you telling me Civ 6 is coming out in real life and we're going to another planet? It's going to be shitty.
I hope that we've gotten to the point where we can stop, if this is true, right? Like if this is true that we got reset, and I'm telling you, I bought the book and I also watched like 5 or 6 YouTube videos, and there isn't a lot of fringe science to this guy. Now this guy does believe in using ayahuasca and things like that. He does believe in that stuff, and I'm starting to kind of buy into that a little bit too. But he doesn't get out there too much with like ridiculous bullshit that I've found. And most of his stuff really seems to be rooted in actual hard science that you can measure, weigh, and look at in your hand.
I lose it on a lot of those, like, I don't know even like the genre to put them in. I guess Joe Rogan scientists, like when they go whole hog into the ayahuasca, shrooms, these hallucinogenic drugs. They're not just chemicals that alter your perception. They make your life better. They change
Well, what he
everything.
says is
They
this.
turned humans into what makes them self-conscious. Like, never mind the fact that would require tons of humans to eat lots of these mushrooms all the time for generations, right?
Well,
Which would make
there's
it
a lot of
difficult to
interesting
get anything
things
done.
there's a lot of interesting things that pops up about that. Like, right, remember the burning bush, Moses in the burning bush that allowed him to see God, or that he saw God within. That's the acacia tree, which has MDA in it, that hallucinogen. It just does. That's an accepted fact. And what was the other thing? Oh, cock. Just watch it, and I promise you'll be fascinated by
I'll
the
give it
whole
a shot.
thing. And I'm really starting to buy into that shit. It's real interesting stuff.
You guys want to call it a show?
Call it a show.
That would be awesome. All right. PKN 138.